welcome back to my channel, guys, where we're about that breaking cycles life. Now for today's encouragement, we're going to the book of Isaiah, and it's Isaiah chapter 43 verse 2, and I'll read for you. It says, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and through the rivers they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, nor shall the flames scorch you." Now I don't have a story for this one, so yeah, I don't have a personal story, I should say. I'm going to use two stories from the Bible that I think majority of us are familiar with, or if not all of us are familiar with. And these stories are Moses and the Israelites being rescued from Egypt, and Nebuchadnezzar and the three Hebrew boys when God showed up in the fiery furnace. Now, if you're not necessarily aware of these stories, I'll basically give a reference or a summary of these two stories. So once upon a time, the Israelites were in Egypt, and they were now enslaved because of the Pharaoh that was ruling at the time. And God saw that his people were being abused, and he wanted to save them. So he sent a prophet named Moses, and Moses went and he beckoned with Pharaoh and told him that God wanted him to set his people free. And Pharaoh was being stubborn, and this basically continued until the 10 plagues of Egypt were had, and then the people of Israel were set free. Now, when they were set free, the Egyptians, the Pharaoh, they weren't necessarily happy with this, so they then started to pursue the free Israelites again. So when the Israelites were on their journey to freedom, they met upon a roadblock, which was the Red Sea, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, the Egyptians are coming. There is a sea in front of us. We don't know how we're going to manage, how we're going to survive. It just looks like we're going back into Egypt," right? And God basically showed up at that moment when he told Moses to put his staff over the Red Sea, and the waters parted and a path was made through the waters so that the Israelites could pass through to the other side. And when the Egyptians came, they were pursued. They saw that, okay, this path was made and the Israelites are walking through, so they continued to pursue on the same pathway through the Red Sea. And then once the Israelites are over, the Lord closed the Red Sea, caused the waters to return, and the Egyptians drowned. So that's basically the overview of that story. You can read more in Exodus. So the next story is the three Hebrew boys and Nebuchadnezzar. So Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, he was feeling himself, basically saying he is the best king of the earth at the time, and he was like, "I need everyone to recognize how great I am," right? And he was like, "Guys, whenever you hear the music, the psaltery, the harp, anything you hear, once it's music, you need to bow to me because I am your king and I am the king of all kings, you know?" And the Hebrew boys were like, "No, you ain't. You're not bigger than my God, who is actually the king of all kings. He is the king that we should bow to, we should worship. Of course, we will honor the king in terms of in terms of respect, but when it comes to worship, we only worship one person, and that is the King of all kings, the Lord of all lords, and that is God in heaven." So Nebuchadnezzar was not necessarily too pleased with this, and then a few of his men told him that, "Oh, there are three boys that are not bowing to you whenever the music is playing." And he was like, "What? Who would dare do that? Like, don't they know who I am?" But apparently he doesn't know who their God is. So when he confronted them about the reason why they weren't bowing, he basically threatened them, because their response was, "King, we are not bowing to you." And he threatened them to say that he's going to light the furnace 7 times hotter, and they will be thrown into the fiery furnace if they do not bow. So basically threatening their lives. And their response was, "King, regardless of what God chooses to do in this moment, we are still not going to bow to you. So whether you want to take our life right now, we're still not bowing to you, O king, because you are not God of all God, King of all kings." So when Nebuchadnezzar heard that, he got furious, because apparently these three Hebrew boys wanted to learn a lesson, because they clearly don't know who he is. So he threw them in the fiery furnace, and when he looked in the fiery furnace, instead of seeing 3 persons, he saw 4. And the image, as he said out of his own mouth, looked like the Son of God. Now, it just goes to show, guys. So these are the encouragements that I want us to pick from these 2 stories and this verse. First of all, let me even tell you a conversation that I was having with my mom the other day. I was reiterating my whole Sabbath issue with her, talking about how, just talking about it and trying to get some comfort from mommy. And I was like, mommy, the 3 Hebrew boys had to go into the furnace and for God to show up, right? They had to go into the fiery furnace, and that is when God showed up. During the trial, in the fire, he showed up. And she's like, yes. And Daniel had to go into the lion's den, and that's when God's glory was seen. And when she said that, I was like, wait, yes, that is so true. Like, wow. And then I started to recall a lot more stories where God's people had to go through the trial, and it was in the trial that God showed up and his sovereignty was shown. And it just fits perfectly with this verse that we have today for encouragement. Guys, just as how the Israelites had to go through the waters, right? Just as how the 3 Hebrew boys had to go in the fiery furnace. Sometimes we have to go through the trials, but it's in those moments when God shows up and shows us who he is as our God, our King, or Savior. It's in those moments where it looks as if everything is going haywire, like you're going to, like, literally I'm going to die right this minute. It looks as if we are going to basically be burnt, or we're going to drown. It's in those moments you see God step in, just as how he stepped in for the 3 Hebrew boys in the fire. And were they burnt? No, they weren't. Were the Israelites overcome or overflowed? No, they weren't. And that is the testament, and that should bring us comfort to know that, yes, guys, we are going to go through trials. We are going to go through trials, and it's not all the time God will save us before, because he does that sometimes. But it's not all the time he's going to save us before the trial comes. It's sometimes, I would say most times, it's in the trials that you see him step in and show who he is as a God. And we just have to take comfort to know that we oftentimes have to go through the trial, because it's going through the trial we learn some lessons, guys. And be honest, after some of these trials that we've endured, you've learned some lessons. I know I have learned a lot of lessons with all the trials that I've been through, right? And it just goes to show that God really, whenever we face trials, it's for the perfecting of our faith. And it is so true, because I can tell you from experience, guys, after going through the trials, my faith in God has really grown. And even though during the trials, may I cuss him, literally, like arguing with him, crying, doubting, everything, like emotional roller coaster, okay? And then when he steps in, I'm like, oh, okay, sorry. Honestly, I'm like, okay, let me calm down. Oh, so that's why that happened. Oh, okay. Sorry. Why was I being so emotional again? But it's just normal, guys. Sorry. Yeah. But it just goes to show that we have to go through trials sometimes. It is for the perfecting of our faith, guys. And God will step in. He promises us. Let's read the verse one more time. It says, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, nor shall the flame scorch you. That is comfort, guys, to know that when you're going through your trials, whatever it looks like, whatever trial you're going through, and it looks as if all hope is lost, guys, just remember that you probably just need to go through this trial and learn the lesson, and God will step in at the right time. And he will definitely show his sovereignty, his power, his glory in that moment. that you will fall even deeper in love with him. You will have that much more faith in him, that much more trust in him, and you will draw closer to him. And that is basically the essence of our Christian journey, to draw closer to him with each and every day, with each and every trial, because it's not a smooth road, guys. It's not a smooth road. I know. Okay. So be encouraged, guys. Whatever trial you're going through, God will step in, just as how he stepped in for the 3 Hebrew boys, just as how he stepped in for the Israelites, right when it looked as if they were about to head back to Egypt. He will step in for you. Okay? So have a great day, guys. Bye.